morning, everyone. Continuing with a series of BRiK Academy webinars, I am Nishu Sharma. I'm pleased to welcome you all to our sixth webinar, Navigating Your Path, Essential Insights for Securing a Pharma Internship. This session is focused on internships from global pharma perspective, offering valuable guidance and insights to help you prepare for a successful career ahead in your lives. Next slide, please. So today's agendas will start with an overview of who we are, followed by a 20-minute session on the global pharma perspective, covering the challenges and expectations in the pharma internships. To have a global pharma industry perspective today, we have speakers with expertise in Indian pharma, HEOR, market access, pricing, commercial, clinical, and regulatory side of the businesses. We'll also have an open Q&A where you can ask your questions about your internships, your career preparations, and the skills that are needed to successfully succeed into this industry. Next slide, please. Today, we also have a fantastic lineup of panel, including our 4 seasoned industry experts. Mihir Pujara, Senior Manager at Cipla with over 11 years of experience in strategic expansion across the emerging markets and Europe. Mihir will be representing the Indian pharma side of the business along with touching the points on pricing and market access. Dr. Meenal Jain, she is founder of RX Premises Solutions, and she also has over a decade of experience with Novartis. She brings the experience in HEOR, that's Health Economic Modeling and Clinical Outcomes Research. We have Atul Banerjee. He's a consultant and former leader at ZS Associates and Accenture. He comes with over 30 years of experience, 30 years of experience in managing global research and consulting projects. Atul will be focusing on commercial consulting and pharma forecasting. And lastly, we have Fahim Rashid with us with over 15 years of experience at Shionogi and Lundbeck. He specializes in competitive strategy and business intelligence, and he will be addressing more on the clinical and the regulatory side of the business. On the other hand, we also have students, and thank you students for the wonderful participation in this event. They come from prestigious universities across India. It includes Pumba, Naipur Hyderabad, Naipur Mohali, IHMR Bangalore, Punjab universities, and several others. These students, they will be soon entering into the internships, marking the beginning of their professional journeys. So yeah, all the best to all the dear students that we have today. Next slide, please. All right, we can start with Mihir. Mihir, you can introduce yourself, please.
Sure. Thank you so much, Nishu, and very good afternoon to all of you. So I am Mihir Pujara. I have overall 12 years of experience, as Nishu outlined. I started my journey in 2012 with management consulting. Followed by that, I had a stint with Novartis for around 7 years into pricing and market access, and some of the insights we'll touch upon. After that, I worked with Glenmark Pharma for 2 years in their global commercial excellence function, primarily working for their go-to-market strategies in Europe. And last but not the least, currently I am part of Cipla in their emerging market and Europe division, looking after that their strategic expansion across Europe. Thank you so much and looking forward to the interaction.
Thank you, Mihir. Next slide, please.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Meenal. I'm a physician by training, and I've been in the field of health economics and outcomes research for over 15 years now. I started my journey in the academia, where I was a research fellow in neurosurgery and emergency medicine. Worked a lot in the clinical outcomes research domain for 4 years there. And then after that, moved to the pharmaceutical industry side of it, where I worked with Novartis for over 10 years in their various divisions within HEOR and pricing and market access. And then last year, I kind of decided to start off with my own startup, RX Premise Solutions, but it deals mainly with the entire HEOR division itself, where we deliver various health economic modeling deliverables across the globe. Happy to be a part of this conversation and looking forward to learn from the team as well.
Thank you, Meenal.
This is Atul. I am.
Thank you, Meenal.
Hi, I'm in Delhi right now, but I'm usually based in London. So my background is I was an aerospace engineer, and then I went into strategy consulting with Accenture and with ZS Associates, where I did a few mergers and acquisitions around Europe and South Africa. That's where I learned all about the pharmaceutical industry. Then I went into about 5 years of working with startups, which was a fun ride. I ran a health company, which was sold in 2003. And then since 2004, so 20 years ago, I've been involved in the field that we're talking about today, which is competitive strategy. I've done a whole range of work in this field, including competitive intelligence, running war games, running scenario analysis workshops, consulting for pharmaceutical companies around the world, big and small biotech companies. And in the last 5 years, I've got more involved in teaching about business strategy, competitive strategy with the London School of Economics, London Business School, and with BRiK Academy as well.
Thank you, Atul.
Thank you very much. Hi guys, good morning or good afternoon where you are. I'm currently and usually based in London, and thank you very much for joining. My name is Fahim Rashid. My background is in chemical engineering actually, and I did a dissertation in my master's for GSK at the time, and that's what piqued my interest in pharma. Straight after my my degree, I actually went into consulting, a couple of positions within competitive strategy, where I learned my trade of primary research, secondary research, managing clients, attending conferences. So I'm a veteran of international conferences. Not so much these days. I feel like I've been worn out of all the air miles internationally, but attended quite a lot in the past. I've since about the last 15 years, I would say I've gone on my own path, on my own journey, and actually consulted and worked with a number of pharmaceutical companies, Shionogi, Lundbeck, and worked in their commercial entities, their commercial groups, servicing business intelligence, market insights, and consulting internally for a number of functions. And also worked with companies such as 3M, regulatory consulting firms, and competitive strategy firms, helping across the board of decision-based needs and requirements with utilizing methodologies such as business analytics, primary research, secondary research, and moving on to war games and scenario analysis.
Thank you so much, Fahim. So students, we also have Viren amongst us. He's joining us from US. Thank you, Viren, for accommodating time. I know that it's 3 a.m. in the morning there. All right.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. The next slide, please. So students, before we dive deeper into the discussion, it's crucial to understand where forecasting, HEOR, commercial consulting, market access, pricing, clinical and the regulatory aspects, they fit into the drug development process and value chain. We will hear more from Atul and Meenal on the slide, how these components intersect and they drive the overall strategy.
Thanks, Nishu. I'll say a few words and then hand over to Meenal. So the reason why we're having this webinar on competitive intelligence, and the answer to the question as to why it's important, is because it takes such a long time to develop a drug, between 10 and 15 years. But more importantly, it costs a lot. It can be anywhere in between 2 or 3 billion. dollars, and that's a lot of money to develop one drug. So the companies that are involved in drug development, they really want to know how they're doing in relation to everyone else and how everyone else is doing in relation to their own development. So they spend a lot of money on agencies to conduct competitive intelligence. The reason is that at every stage of this development process, and you can see it on this chart here, there are competitive threats. So in pre-discovery, where you're trying to figure out what to do, which area to go into. And by the way, I worked a lot in this area when I was consulting for ZS Associates, and I realized back then that the decisions that board people make in terms of what drugs to develop isn't really about looking at diseases or helping people and curing things. It's about the bottom line. It's about what will make the most money, ultimately. There are some newer companies now who are looking at orphan diseases, which are rare diseases, and maybe doing some things more from an altruistic point of view. But essentially, they have to make money because it costs so much to make a drug. So at every stage, from discovery to preclinical to the different phases of clinical trials, people like us are asked to look into how other companies are doing in terms of their trials. So if you look here, you've got quite a number of years, between 3 and 6 years, where they're trying to figure out exactly what molecules work, what diseases they target, and how they work and how they can cure them or treat them at least. And then once they've decided with a few hundred leads, they will then decide what to go forward in terms of running a clinical trial. And clinical trials means recruiting patients to test these molecules on. And these have to be done within FDA and EMA and other regulatory authority guidelines. So it's a very complicated process. It costs a lot of money. And ultimately, you end up, after many, many years of doing this, is spending lots of money with one drug, which you hope will be successful in the market and will earn the pharmaceutical money. Now, having spent $2 or $3 billion, they really expect that their drugs will earn some revenue for them. Otherwise, these companies will go bust. So what generally happens is a company will have a portfolio of drugs. Not every one of them will be a success, but they'll have the 1 or 2 blockbusters, as they call it, which will then pay for everything else. So that's the model that pharmaceutical companies work. Smaller companies like biotech companies will develop something very, very specific in the hope that a larger company will buy them if it's successful. And an example of that would be like in gene therapy for multiple sclerosis. It's a very small area. It's very specific. It's quite a novel therapy, editing genes. And the hope is that if it's successful and they pass through all these different clinical phases and they get approval from the FDA and the EMA, that a bigger company will come and buy them. And that's how these smaller companies make a lot of money. I'll hand over to Minal now.
Thank you, Atul. I think you touched on a lot of points that intersects with the HER and the pricing and market access. So just to build up on what Atul said, when you're thinking from the, again, the discovery phase or the preclinical phase, the place where HER comes in is with the R&D, right? With the research and development is occurring, it will tell you that, okay, should you be investing in this or not? We do a very, very preclinical assessment or a very early assessment to see is this investment going to bring you money or not? As he said, everything starts off whether it's going to give you the maximum buck for your investment or not. So the HER or particularly the economic modeling side of it, it starts as early as the preclinical, even the phase 1 and phase 2, where they are informing the R&D part of it. When you come to the clinical part of it, the place where HER plays a role is just giving you an example. If you're running a clinical trial, and as you know, it involves a lot of money, the people might ask you, should I include this particular driver, particular parameter in my clinical trial or not? Because including one parameter, let's say quality of life data, it seems one parameter, but there's a list of things that are involved to get that questionnaire validated, collecting the survey data and everything, right? So it involves a lot of money, even if one parameter gets included in the clinical trial. what we do from the modeling side sometimes is we tell them that if you include this quality of life data, is it worth the effort? Is it going to raise the value of your product or not? And if I say no, it's not going to raise the value, the people at the trial side, they can decide whether they want to include this parameter or not. So that's where early on in the phase 1, phase 2, we can help them decide the design of the clinical trial. The main role where the HR plays is at the phase 3. So that's when the trial is done, you've got the data, the regulatory approval is done, but then you need to get the reimbursement approval. One of the criteria for the reimbursement is most of the agencies, especially in Europe, UK, and other European countries, they want to see the cost effectiveness of the product, right? So one of the primary part of the dossier is the cost effectiveness evaluation. And that's where the entire pricing, market access, HR division comes into play. There is a little bit of role that is also happening at the post-marketing side as well. So for example, if the drug is already launched in the market, it's approved, but if there is a competitor that is coming into the market, we also reanalyze, how our shares are going to get distributed, what activities should we do so that we can still keep up with with the sales number. So from the HR, pricing, market access, and I think, as Atul said, right, with the competitive intelligence, all of these divisions are spread across the entire value chain of the product.
Thank you so much, Meenal and Atul, for your valuable insights on the slide. We can move on to the next slide, please.
Thank you. So this slide just actually portrays and reflects what we've just spoken about in the previous slide, in that if we're specifically looking at just competitive strategy, competitive intelligence, as it touches across the whole spectrum of the value chain, obviously within that value chain, there are different stakeholders that we do reach out to and we do communicate to. So for instance, if you think about a pharma company, within that, there's so many different functional areas. Just because you sit in decision support doesn't mean that you're just siloed into that fragment of the huge pharmaceutical company, right? You're almost an internal consultant, and you're working across the board of all of these stakeholders. So on this slide, you can see, you'll be communicating and working with people from products and pipeline, just as Atul and Meenal said, right? Even in pre-R&D phase, you'll be working and working on thought pieces and analysis to help your colleagues to determine, okay, which route are we taking? Even at that early stage or during the whole value chain, our customers are ultimately our physicians, right? They're the ones that are going to treat the patients that are in the clinic and hospital. So we are constantly talking to those, key opinion leaders, be it in India specific or be it, global key opinion leaders. They're part of the interaction through market research, through focus groups, through other, I guess, methodologies too. And then you've got others such as, payers and reimbursement agencies, and you're almost understanding, what the competitors are doing. As Atul mentioned, you're communicating regularly, I would say, with regulatory agencies such as the FDA and EMA to shape your clinical development trial strategies. And also, I guess, across the board, you're understanding what the market dynamics continue are as they evolve and as your assets go through each phase of the clinical development stages. And that's just to basically show, as I said at the start, you are working across the board, different functions, different parts of the value chain, as early as before even an asset enters R&D, all the way to it entering the market, and you're doing post ad hoc trials. So and that lasts 15 to 20 years. So there's a lot of interaction, and not just one company, right? You're looking at tens of pharma companies, biotech companies, our life sciences, medtech. So there's a lot of going, cross-functional work that's going on.
Thank you so much, Fahim. So till now we have some fair understanding on why CI, HEOR, market access pricing, they are important because given the time and the investment that takes for one product to reach to the market, it's really important, and how CI function touches each stakeholder in the value chain. Next slide, please. The students, now let's move towards understanding the global pharma perspective, including expert insights and the key challenges and their expectations that they have from the internships. This segment will provide more valuable information of what companies are looking for and how you as students or fresh interns into the organizations can best align your skills and experiences with these industry standards. Next slide, please. Mihir and Meenal, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Nishu. So, first of all, I would like to start with that we are living in times there are plethora of internship opportunities, both in the global pharma as well as in Indian pharmaceutical companies, because Indian pharma companies are also expanding their footprint across international markets as well. So it has created then multiple divisions, multiple products, and then multiple markets. So on the challenges front now, this is more from a structure, how the Indian pharma MNCs are structured. From that point, I'm covering that in a typical Indian pharma organization, right? I would call it an Indian pharma global MNC. There are multiple business units. So currently, I am part of a business unit called Emerging Markets in Europe. There is another business unit called India. There is separate business unit for US, separate business unit for Africa, and then there is a separate business unit for OTC and what we called as a health division or nutraceutical division. So each division would function in itself as a big organization, right? So they have their different structure, different leadership, right? And that is why the approach towards internship also become a bit more challenging, because each of these business units have their separate tie-ups with different institutes, and then they have a separate people who are involved in hiring the interns. Moreover, I would say in terms of project allocation, right? So in some of the functions there are commercial needs. In some of the functions there are needs on the medical side. So what is required is that your placement cell and your alumni network, right, needs to be really, really strong in order to tap these opportunities, make the connections with the right people, and making sure that your institute, whichever institute you are part of, right, you are approaching the right people at right time. Now, second part in terms of expectations. So when you join as an intern, what a typical company, now be it a global or be it a Indian pharma MNC, what are the some of the expectations from interns? So first of all, you are getting a project for say 2 months or a 3 months period, and everybody understand that the problem that you're trying to solve is going to be complex and there is no one answer to it. So what is more important is the approach that you have taken, right? So means to an end, the kind of methodology that you are applying into the project, how you are connecting the dots, that is more important rather than achieving the end outcome, because then there will be clear next steps. Second thing is how you are presenting the findings, right? So definitely there would be a large group I have seen at the end of the internship period, and then you are supposed to present your project in terms of what you have done, what was the problem statement, what was your approach, what is the outcome and what are the next steps. So the more you touch upon your clarity and structured approach is there, right? There are better chances that you can convince the group, get the good ratings, and then eventually also get a PPO offer, because I've seen good interns get replacement offer from the companies as well. Showing initiative, I think it is, if you are doing a job or internship, that equally applies, that you be proactive and take initiatives and learn to collaborate. This is becoming essential as every organization has a global footprint, right? So example, Cipla right now is operating in 50 plus international markets. So it's very much important. It's an essential skill that you inculcate of being a team player and being able to collaborate with different functions. Thank you so much, and I'll over to Miguel.
Thank you, Mihir. I think it's a very, very, broad perspective, especially, when we talk about the Indian pharmaceutical industry, because there's a wide difference, or I mean, not in terms of operations or not in terms of the skills required, but sometimes how do you navigate your way through the Indian system or another company like Novartis, GSK, where the footprint is already established globally. So I would like to little bit touch upon, go a little bit deep dive into from the intern's expectation, what are the challenges, what are their expectations, and sometimes where the mismatch can happen because, the employers are on a different wavelength and maybe the interns are coming with a different expectations or different set of challenges. And just to, figure out where we can achieve that balance. So I think, the one thing that I have learned through my journey, through my entire career since the last 15 years is, and the way I have spread it out, I was just rethinking on this, was, if you're spending your first, let's say 20-30% in the learning phase of it, because and this applies practically to any domain, whether it's market access, competitive intelligence, business analysis, everything. So I think the first initial core period should be in your learning phase and then gaining the experience. So if I talk specifically in terms of HEOR, economic modeling, evidence development, pricing, market access, the idea is how much can you, when you are graduating from your college, you might be having a lot of HEOR focused subjects, which gives you a flair of an idea of what this domain entails. But on your own, what kind of learnings are you going to do? What kind of certifications are you taking? So that's the core chunk that goes into the first initial, let's say 5 to 6 years of your life when you're entering into any industrial market, consulting company or anything, right? The second objective is to gain experience, right? And that the only way you can gain experience is by doing a hands-on project, right? The reason I say that majority of the things that I've written under the challenges, right? When you say that it's such a wide area, there's so much of things to learn and we don't know where to focus on. Or sometimes, there is when you're going for an internship, people might just assign you very menial task, right? Which has a very limited visibility, very minimal impact. And then the question is, how do I understand the entire gamut of things when I'm just working for, let's say 2 to 3 months on one single aspect of project, right? I think the way I would foresee that, or even from the employer's side, the expectation is not that if you come for 2 to 3 months on a project, we are not expecting that you should learn the entire thing. You should tomorrow, after 2 months, you should know how to build an economic model, or you should know how to write a global value dossier. What we are looking for at this stage is for you to show us the capability, right? And when I mean by capability, it's, it's based on the capacity and the ability. Ability, anybody can teach you. If you enter into the modeling division, anybody can tell you, okay, this is how you're going to make a Markov model. This is how you're going to make a decision tree for an oncology drug. The challenge is not at the ability side of it, but the challenge is how do you show that you have the capacity to learn, right? And that's what you need to achieve in that 2 to 3 month period. What I mean by the capacity is you have to show them that, there's a strong work ethic. You are ready to put in that number of hours. You're ready to put in the effort to gain that knowledge in that particular field, right? And for me, I think this is one particular thing that I keep on telling to all my, people that work with me. Ask the question why. Just because you're on a very menial task or you've been given just the 1% of the entire project, let's say just do a data extraction and that's it, right? You need to ask your manager, whoever is involved, why am I doing this? What is the impact that it is going to make? And that is how you're going to get a very broad picture. It could be as simple as, go down and, sit in the meetings and say, I'm going to take some notes for you. Even taking those notes is going to give you so much of visibility of why and how we are going to do these things, right? At the end of the internship, an employer is not looking at how much skill have you developed, right? Because we all know that even today, after 15 years, I know I'm still learning. We are not experts in any of the field that we are doing because everything is so much evolving, right? But the expectation is, do you have that inclination to apply the knowledge, to learn and ask the relevant question of, why am I doing this? It's not about spoon feeding every time, right? Nobody is going to tell you, do this because this is going to happen or this is the impact. So I think the main thing that you need to do is have a bigger picture in mind. Understand the takeaway from the internship should be that, do I want to invest or do I want my career to go in this field or not? Does it interest me or not, right? Does this quantitative part of the economic modeling or the HUR, do I align with that or not? That is the one thing that you as an intern should take away from it, that tomorrow when I apply for jobs, should it be in the competitive intelligence side, should be in the evidence review development side or not? I think from my side, that is something that you should take away. Understand that the employer is not looking for whether you know how to do your building models, right? Or do you know how to write your dossiers? But yes, do you know how to read a clinical paper? Do you know how to critique a clinical paper? Because all of these things, is that what you will learn in your current, when you're doing your college, in your master's program probably, right? So we are looking at the application side of it. We are looking at whether you're able to deliver the high quality product or not, even in the menial task or, in the small task that you do. I won't call it menial, but sometimes people say it is menial because data extraction is nothing. But believe me, like, data extraction forms the basis of everything, right? So you need to deliver a very high quality task in the lowest, whatever they are offering, because that's where the benchmarking happens. So I think right. So if I want to employ someone, if I want to give a job to someone, this is the thing that I'm seeing. Do you have the inclination to do or not? Do you know when to ask? And the first thing is, no question is wrong, right? Just ask why. Why am I doing it? There's nothing right or wrong about it. But what really puts me off is if I tell someone do this and they just do it and that's it, right? They don't ask me, why am I doing this? What is the impact? The moment you start asking these questions, the employer knows that, okay, you are interested in this, and obviously, it gets on building. I definitely agree with some of the points, or, one point that really applies to modeling and HUR is the networking. Keep talking to people, right? You need to understand why and how, like, if you're talking about how did you come up to this level, what was your career trajectory? Because, that might give you some information on how you want to build your own career path. The last point that I would just say is, I know people are, they want to, let's say, grow in one domain, or they prefer one domain. But remember that in this industry, the only people that can grow is when they know how to, learn the intersection part of it. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say if you are from a quantitative background, unless and until you apply on the qualitative side of it, you are willing to at least apply the knowledge or gain the knowledge across other domains as well, there is a very limited scope to grow. And Atul, I think that's one very good thing, right? I mean, you being from an engineering point of view, from an engineering side, from a quantitative side, and now going to the pharma side and applying that knowledge, and it's such a big difference, right? I mean, you talk to an engineer and you say tomorrow you want to gain the entire clinical knowledge side of it. It seems a very daunting task, but I think it's about your ability to cross the domains and the ability to learn the different aspects in the pharma sector. So
and
I think
actually, you know what? The point you made is really key. I found when I was running war games that my experience in different industries really helped in finding analogs to the industry, helping to give my experience from other places. Actually, it's been a long time since I've been an employee. I've never been an intern. So I asked my daughter, who was an intern last year, she found a place at a digital marketing agency. Now, the comments in challenges and expectations are from her, but I thought it would be relevant because these can be applied generally for interns. I think when she went in, she didn't really know what to expect. I think that's kind of the nerves that anyone would expect to have. Things like, finding the place, how to get there, how to ask for expenses, all those things, were things that were part of her concerns. But knowing the basics of the industry. So, if you get an internship with Adametnext or with any other company in the pharmaceutical industry, it's worthwhile knowing a little bit about what that company does. It sets you up for a good grounding. Some of the other challenges she found was getting used to the environment, the culture, getting used to how things work in the organization, keeping up with the workload. I think Mihir also mentioned this, forming connections, networking. That was a really important thing that she found. But also one of the challenges she found was after that period of the internship is what to do after that. It's almost like when it was finished, everything switched off, but she made a note of keeping in contact with some of the people she had met. She made some very good friends, very good contacts. So that's quite important as well.
Thank you so much.
What she expected is to be shown how to do things, to be given a wide range of activities, to be treated, respectfully, fairly, and to be given opportunities. From the digital marketing agency, from the employer's point of view, interns, obviously they need to be polite, be respectful, be willing to learn, enthusiastic, be interested in what they're being told, contribute. I think that's already been mentioned. Pay attention, be punctual, all these kind of basic things. But I thought it'd be useful for you to hear from an actual intern. Fahim?
Yes, I will wrap it up very quickly. I mean, Mihir, Minal, and Atul, you've eloquently mentioned all the main points that I would have. I think I would just set one challenge and one expectation for my experience. In India, I've seen firsthand there are lots and lots and lots of bright people. On this call, I'm sure very intelligent brains are listening in right now. So there is an abundance of people, graduating or looking for roles. So I would say is, how do you differentiate yourself? Right? Yeah, you can get all the top marks, 100%. I'm sure everyone gets 100%, right? Distinctions. But once you start looking for roles or internships, okay, how have you aligned yourself to that role that you want to get and try for the next 2 to 3 months? Think outside the box and, read, do some courses or network, as we've already said. So just think about how you can align. I think I will actually repeat what Minal said is, you may be doing a task that isn't seen to be, the razzmatazz, or, it's going to go straight to the CEO's office, but, give you 100% and actually think about the why. Why am I doing this? What's the big picture? Your client or your internal client, has a reason, an objective for it, right? So it will feed in that overall picture. So always try to be analytical, I would say, even if you're doing something like data extraction, or you're doing a little bit of secondary to gather some insights on an asset in, say, multiple sclerosis, for instance. Think about why you're actually doing that. I think that's where the value is, and your mindset will start thinking about the more strategic and the more broader aspects of what you're working in. That's it.
Thank you so much, speakers, for sharing your lovely perspectives from the different domains across the industry. Next slide, please. Now we will move to the Q&A session. Students, please note that we have opened the Q&A for all of you. The Q&A will now remain open for the rest of the event. Simply click the button with 3 shapes, circle, square, and triangle at the bottom right corner of your screen. Go to the Q&A and post your question there. I would be taking up the questions from the chat box. So let's hear from the industry experts and make your internship search easier. We look forward for an active participation here. We also have a few set of questions that some of the students have already shared with us before the event. So Sumit from Naipur, Hyderabad, you can go ahead with your first question.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Sumit from Department of Pharmaceutical Management, Naipar, Hyderabad. My question is, what role does data analysis play in developing successful sales strategies? And what are the analytical skills that are needed for sales consulting?
Mihir, would you like to take that up?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So, see, analytics plays a vital importance across all the fields. Now, we are talking about the sales analytics. So, in the sales analytics part, so if you talk about, there is a company called IQVIA you might be aware of, right? So from where all the sales data is being analyzed. So company have primary, secondary, and tertiary sales data from company to wholesalers, then wholesalers to the retailers, and retailers to the patient. So company collects all sales data at all the levels, and then you need to analyze the performance, right? Real time performance. So the sales data point at each of this is very very important, right? So I mean, Excel, right, is more than enough, I would say, in terms of preparing a commercial KPI dashboard for the leadership in terms of how your sales performance are. IQVIA data is used for the competitive sales, how competitors are doing, right, and calculating those market shares. And then company do have their internal CRMs, right, customer relationship management softwares, right, where they also have other things linked with the sales, like what are the performance at a rep level, right? How many doctors is being covered? What is their territory alignment? What we call as sales force effectiveness, right? So I mean, it's a big topic, but in a nutshell, I think I was able to answer your question, Sumit.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we can move to Tejas from Pumba. You can go ahead with your question.
First of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity to interact with such knowledgeable industry experts. I would like to ask Mihir that the newest trends in competitive intelligence like AI, machine learning, or predictive analysis, how does this supplement the traditional competitive intelligence and overall strategy planning in an organization? Over to you.
Okay, I would give my perspective, but there are more CI experts over here, so I would like to add them in. So AI is right now revolutionizing every field, be it competitive intelligence or market access. So the key thing that AI is enabling all different functions is that how you are getting information and knowledge at speed, right? And AI will help you to structure that knowledge, right? Be it in every field. But I mean, specific to CI now, I would want maybe Atul or Fahim to please jump in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I think there are lots of people who have the same kind of question about the role of AI, machine learning in competitive intelligence, and what the future is for this field. And yes, there is a big role. I'm seeing AI being used more and more. I think it's a good tool to have in competitive intelligence, but it is a tool. It's not there to replace primary intelligence. It's not there to replace the function that we do. It assists us in what we're doing. There's a lot of noise in research, and if we are able to shortcut that process of going from noise to data to intelligence, that's going to benefit us. But I don't think it will replace primary intelligence, actual real interviews with real people. So hopefully our future is secure. Viren, you have a point?
I want to add that even before getting into AI, the the broad perspective of this session was to pick up a field in which you want to enter, and then so if I need to use a common analogy, whether you want to drive a cycle, bike, car, plane, so pick first and then start moving in that direction, and then AI can help you getting there faster.
Thank you so much. And Viren, now a follow-up question that is coming from the audience. How to pick or how to make a choice between picking up a cycle, train, or a aeroplane? How to make that choice first? And this is a question from Monish, Mohammed Latif, and other people as well in the network who want to ask how to even enhance these networking skills or make networks in the industry.
So, in order to build a network, the first step is show up on such events and open up. Okay, without having that internal fear, how people gonna judge you, how you gonna react. So that's the only way you build network. Make your mistakes and show up. Another thing is how to find your passion or how to find your interest. Uh, the simple way is, so it's basically the question is why you like what you like. So you like things where you show some early success and people are appreciating you. So in your life, you need to look back, and by now I'm assuming that majority of people in our audience, they are 20 plus. The moment you look back, you have already built a personality. You are good at something and you are not good at something. So you pick up the areas where you are good at, uh, and by simply seeing where you have seen some early success and your network, people around you appreciated you. Uh, the next question you ask is, do you have a commercial viability, that whatever you are good at, does society also needs it? So typically, the compensations, the money which you are seeing in the market, it is basically the value these people are creating for society. So if you have a passion and society needs it, then this is where you have a good career. Another thing is we why we have such a diverse panel here. To figure it out, a majority of people, and I'm assuming that you are pharmacist, you are being trained like a scientist. You are not trained like a business professional. So if somebody want to change the league, and then for that matter, I think a lot of management student may empathize that after 4 year of pharmacy and this 2 year of I call it a pseudo management, uh, because the program itself is not matured enough to make you a good business professional. Uh, and majority of people, they enter in and doing this MBA in a very sequential learning. So they have not taken uh, any work experience to make most out of it. So this makes the situation even more complex. So the idea of this session is you pick up those terminologies, titles, processes, and do your own research as well to figure it out where you are good at and in which direction you want to take your career. And trust me, there are ample opportunities across the value chain. If you are good at science, go in science. If you are good in commercial, go toward commercial.
Thank you, Viren. And we also have a question from Shivi Sharma. She's a student at Jamia Islamia. Her question is, what should be a strategy for a student to develop his career in management, her career in management consultancies like ZS Associates? So we do have a seasoned expert from ZS Associates on the panel. Atul, would you like to take that up?
Yeah. So just to give you the context, I was at ZS in the 90s. So it was a while ago, but this is what I did. So I was coming from Accenture, where I was involved in technology, in telecom, in strategy. And I was more interested in strategy consulting than IT and technology consulting. And so I read a book the day before my interview on strategy consulting, which really helped because going to ZS, I knew very little. Actually, I knew hardly anything about the pharmaceutical industry. But what did help me is partly because of my background in aerospace and engineering and analytical thinking, but also thinking on the spot. So so there were a series of interviews. In one of the interviews, I noticed the guy who was talking to me had some papers on his desk with some data points and a graph and a line going through it. basically a trend analysis. I just noticed the environment around me. In the next interview, the partner there showed me that paper with dots but no line, and he just said to me, "What would you do with this series of data?" So, obviously I said, yeah, put a line, make a trend, predict the future. That's the sort of thing I would say is quite useful to have, is the ability to think on your feet. ZS is a very analytical type of consulting firm, so they like data crunching. They like making decisions out of lots and lots of data. So if you are good at Excel and understand how to use formulae, how to manipulate data and produce graphs and predict based on the number crunching, that's going to help you a lot. So two things. One is understand the industry and the trends and strategically what's going on, and two, hone your analytical skills.
So just to add, I think there was a question related to data analysis, right? So the significance of data analysis is if it has been done in the past, then it can be done in a better way in future. Okay. And how much you can do, how fast you can do, this is what data analysis helps you.
By the way, sorry, last point. When I was there, because my experience had been in the telecom industry, which is also very data heavy, I tried to convince the partners, the founders of ZS, Altners and Sinha, to move into the telecom industry, because the models that they use for the pharmaceutical industry could have easily been translated into telecom. And actually they did that in the end, but not at that point. So the point I'm making is, have some initiative as well. Show that you're thinking outside the box.
Thank you so much, Atul Viren. Next, I think we have a question from Utkarsh from Naipur Mohali. You can please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Utkarsh Bharambe from Naipur SS Nagar Mohali. My question is that what trends do you observe in pharma industry, and how candidates align themselves with these trends?
So maybe I can pick it and then others can add. So when I started my career somewhere in 2010, at that time, a lot of these vendors, BET, ValueServe, WNS, the offshoring model, which offshoring means there are jobs in the US and Europe, and these roles were transitioning to India because the cost of operation was lower here. And then almost 15-year fast forward from there, now the companies, these big pharma companies, they have seen the value of these vendors, offshore centers. So we saw Novartis set up a huge office in Novartis in Hyderabad, employing almost over 12,000 people, working across the value chain. So if you are in that kind of system, you will see that there are people working across the verticals. And now you are seeing other companies also coming in. So be it Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Sandoz, Merck, you name the big pharma, and they are bringing their back office. So it's basically, I don't call it back office. It's basically they're bringing their brain, the analytics side of their thinking side of their business to India. It is slightly different from the way things work in vendor side and they work within pharma. So it would be good that students start preparing accordingly. And I'm not sure how much freshers these GCC gonna accommodate, because they want to have productive employees as soon as possible. For any big pharma, it's easy to hire people and it's difficult to fire people. Okay, so they don't want to make mistakes with their potential hires. Anybody want to add? Go ahead.
And just to complement what Virendra said, actually, from an Indian pharma side who don't have a GCC kind of a setup, but they are now also eyeing into specialty, more innovative medicines. So the kind of data related and analytical profiles that even Indian pharma companies have at this moment, if you see 10 years or 15 years down the line, this even doesn't exist in Indian pharma companies. Also, things like AI is also sitting in scorecard of all the top leaders. So I mean, the analysis at every level, right? There are people sitting even in Indian companies, 4 to 5, who support with data and analysis, which created more opportunities.
Thank you so much, Mir. So I think we can move on to the next question. We have Amod from Naipur, Hyderabad. Amod, are you there?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Mohd from Department of Pharmaceutical Management, Naipur, Hyderabad. Before asking my question, I would like to give my sincere regards to the BRiK Academy for this interactive session. My question is that how is the growing importance of sustainability and social responsibility in significantly shaping sales strategies and consulting?
Yeah, I think I got the gist of that question. Sustainability. Fahim and I worked on a number of projects in the last year, actually, on this very topic. So it is important to pharmaceutical companies. They're looking at more sustainable ways of developing their drugs, but also in the devices that they use, for example, with inhalers. Last year, I did a big project in this area. Fahim, do you want to talk about the inhaler sustainability green products?
Yeah, just quickly, it was trying to understand how greener gases within the chambers of inhalers can be more carbon friendlier. So, there's a big push from pharma companies that work in asthma, for instance, AstraZeneca being one of them, how to offset and align with governmental, I guess, policies, by 2030, 2035 in becoming more sustainable. So I think there's a push across the board, not just the projects we work with, across all industries, everyone's talking about sustainability. So I think there's a big push in that area.
I think people may find it surprising. So earlier, the inhaler, the gas pharmaceutical companies were using in inhaler, it was same as a gas there in your refrigerator. So which keeps your refrigerator cool. So which is basically makes up chlorofluorocarbons, right? So the industry is making a transition. So there is a lot of initiatives are happening. It was surprising for me, Fahim, when you were working on this project.
Yeah, we worked on it together, right? So, yeah. Next question, Nishi.
All right. We have Neetu from Kumba. Neetu, you can go ahead with your question.
Hello, everyone. Very delighted to meet all of you over a meeting. I would like to put forward a question that what is the emerging trend in the pharmaceutical industry should future consultants be aware of, and how can they prepare to address these trends? Also, what areas does Adametnext see as growth opportunities?
I can take the first part of it, and I guess Viren, you can just overlap quickly. So from my understanding and the projects that I work with, I think it's already happening. But trends such as personalized medicine, advanced therapeutics, you may have heard of CART technology, gene editing, as we've mentioned before. Try to understand what that actually means. Understand the clinical development that goes beyond just recruiting patients. What are their strategies? What are the regulatory implications on a broad level? Then we have other buckets such as digital health and AI. Understand how AI fits into the value chain. What are the ethical concerns? Maybe read some articles. There's whole heaps of things going on in the industry, and people are writing about it. Just go on LinkedIn, for instance. People are talking about it, publishing articles. Changes in supply chain, how pharma companies become more efficient. Sustainability, we just said ESG, and value-based pricing. Having a better understanding how companies get reimbursement in cost-conscious markets. I think they're the main trends, I would say. Viren?
In terms of in terms of the global pharma movement, it's gonna be very broad topic. So I will restrict myself to our offshore industry. Uh, and I again go back to how we started. Okay, so the West was looking toward India. Can these people help us in doing business? And they started with a very low value work. Okay, can you do secondary research for us? Can you map clinical trials for us? Can you run this model forecast model for us? So it's, if I need to use an analogy, it's like you are playing cricket and somebody is asking you, can you do bowling for me in nets, or can you do fielding for me in nets? Okay, not even allowing you to play the game. 15-year fast forward. Uh, Now what we know is the companies are seeing us as a valuable partner, and they understand that we are fairly intelligent people, so we can also guide them in decision making. So with Adametnext, what we are trying to become is a specialized pharmaceutical consulting firm, which actually helps in brand strategy. Okay, so we are not competing against Big Four, but I think you can see us as a competitor to Novartis, GCC, where they have the privilege of all these specialities, and only CI function cannot address brand strategy. Only HUR function cannot address brand strategy. Only supply chain cannot address brand strategy. Only sales analytics cannot address brand strategy. All these needs to come together. So we started with CI. Now we are adding more functions along with us, and we want to become a one-stop solution where be it the big pharma or small pharma, they are coming to us and we are helping them in taking their asset, which is maybe in pipeline, early stage or late stage, and taking them into the commercialization stage where they can make most out of their asset, the most value for the company and most value for their patients.
Thank you so much, Viren.
Thank you, sir.
If I said anything which you're not able to understand, please note it down, okay? And Google search it later. There could be a difference in our vocabulary.
Thank you, Viren. Anushka from Naipur Mohali, you can go on next, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anushka Bhayana. I'm from the Department of Pharmaceutical Management from Naipur Mohali. I wanted to know, as a first-time internship candidate, what are the parameters that a firm or a company analyzes us on while taking us in as interns? And what are the parameters that they analyze on when this internship probably converts to a pre-placement offer?
I think we can't hear you, Fahim.
Muted, Fahim.
Sorry, I can take this one. I did mention this. I'm very left or right field in this perspective, right? Like I said to you, yourself, everyone on this call, hundreds of thousands of students are very clever, very smart people, right? We all know that, right? You're in the same bucket, first of all. So me choosing you out of everyone else, why would I choose you? What qualities do you bring other than being smart? Are you able to communicate with me? But I think working across different sectors or function groups, I think communication is probably the key, right? We've got leaders such as Mihir here, that he probably values communication. How can you connect with me? We spoke about networking. What do you bring? What's the star qualities that you bring?
I think it's fairly simple, Fahim, right? So, we all are friendly people, right? So how approachable you are, are you smiling? Are you positive?
Absolutely.
So there are some people when they enter in the room, they fill the room with a lot of positivity. So
absolutely. And I think
maybe you, Meenal, and Atul, they can add, how you judge people. I mean, sometimes you just enter into the room and you interact with somebody and you know that, okay, you are gelling with them.
Absolutely. I think the soft skills, for me, the interpersonal skills are very important, right? I don't know, Mihir, Minal, I mean, your interactions, you're both in pharma, right? Is that important rather than, just being book smart,
If you think consultants are always very serious, very tidy, always always focus. I mean, we all are human, you want to be surrounded by good people.
I think from my point of view, it's quite simple. No matter what you know, what your qualifications are, the reality is people choose people. And there is something about somebody walking into a room and connecting with you, and the decision's made very quickly. Actually, that's been kind of found out. What I would advise is look into the company you're trying to get an internship, do some research, try and maybe even speak to some of the people who work there, get a feel of what they like and what kind of culture there is, and dare I say, do some research on the person that's interviewing you. Maybe there's some overlap that you can bring up in your interview.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you so much. We can move on to Deepika from NIPER Hyderabad.
A very good afternoon, everyone. First of all, thank you to all the speakers for spending time with us and enlightening us about the internship opportunities and what the companies are expecting from a fresher intern. So my question is, what are the core and essential skills that are required to get success in HEOR roles?
Thanks, Deepika. So maybe I can pick that up. So specifically for HEOR, as I said, it's fallen into two buckets. So that's the quantitative part of it and the qualitative part of it. For the quantitative part of it, what we are looking at is, from a skill point, is the logical thinking. Are you able to apply? Are you able to connect the dots, right? So the core part is the logical thinking. When it comes to the quantitative, that is your pricing, your economic modeling, right? You can use various tools for that. You can use Excel, macros, SAS, R. Those are secondary, right? But the idea is whether you can think logically, whether you're able to make sense of, how do you approach a problem. When you talk about the qualitative part of it, we are looking more from the aspect where are you able to comprehend a scientific paper? How much are you able to understand that paper? Because specifically from an HEOR point of view, you need to write, you need to be good at writing. You need to make a story or a value story of a particular drug. You need to assess the burden. So all of these will come won't come unless and until you know how to critique a literature, right? So the scientific critiquing a scientific literature is what we are looking at. So just to pinpoint those two aspects.
I would add a line, so if you, I think in your academics, it is the best time to, or maybe initial 1 or 2 year. If you want to experiment and you want to try various verticals, you try it, give yourself exposure and see that, whether it's for you or not, before pivoting on one particular function.
I think, can I just add into that? In the Indian GCs, do they have placements where, I know in global, they have placements where they go into each function after, say, a year or 2 or 6 months, and they rotate. Is that something that's happening in the Indian GCCs, would you say?
Yes, it happens. Internally, it happens. But when it comes to, going out to campuses and hiring in freshers, I think this is where they are hiring to a very specific functions, not across the functions.
Thank you so much. Samishta from Pumba, you can go next.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to engage with industry experts. My name is Sharmisha Kakar, and I am currently pursuing MBA Pharma Biotech from Pumba University. My question would be, what position did you start at when you joined the company? How did you stand out and get management to see the potential in you?
Okay, I can take that up. So I passed out in 2012, right, from NIPER Mohali, and I started definitely at an analyst position as a part of the consulting team. I was working for a company called Kineps with a boutique consulting firm. And then eventually the career ladder is senior analyst, and then I jumped. I moved to Novartis, then again started as a senior analyst, then moved to the manager, then started at senior manager. So I mean, in nutshell, what stands out again, right? It is, I mean, collation of what all we have said so far, right? So first of all, it's about your individual choice that you will discover, right? So career is sometimes driving in traffic. Right now, you have certain data points, certain visibility. When you go drive in the road, move across different lanes, then you realize, oh, this is what I really want to do. This is the experience that I have got, and then you change your turn. So this is how I would also see a career is. And then along with that, your personal traits that you carry, right, across, I mean, irrespective of the role, irrespective of the organization, there's certain trait how you are as a person, how approachable and how easy to work with, right? I mean, this is one of the most underrated skill, but I would personally say that the more easier you uh, as an individual, somebody to work with, right, it enhances your chances to get a promotion, get next level, because ultimately humans are humans. Human interact with humans to take the decision. Yeah, I would stop there and let someone else also add to it.
Kiran,
Something
you
I
had a
just
hand.
Often people think that being an introvert is a disadvantage and being an extrovert is an advantage. The answer is no. Okay, it's if you are an introvert, I put you in a room full of people, obviously it will create anxiety. But if you are an extrovert who like going out, external activities, and now I put you in a seat and ask you to do 12 hours laptop work, and not going anywhere, it is not for you. Okay, so find something complementary. And often people do this mistake in the greed of having the high so-called compensation packages. They try to do something which is completely opposite of their personality, and they may end up with take up extreme measures. So for example, what we just heard about Ernst and Young story. So it is extremely important. Every individual is different, and you figure it out what works well for you. And just to complete it, if you want to try multiple things, start with a startup, with a small company, because the moment you end up joining, big company like Novartis, BMS, Merck, there the functions are very differentiated. Their roles are very clearly defined, and they have tons of activities which are always gonna keep you occupied. So you won't able to try much more in big organization. But in a small company, because you are surrounded by only few people, so the exposure is much higher.
Thanks,
I just
Viren.
wanted
I
to
think
I just want to quickly add to that point. There are challenges. I want to be fair and say that there are challenges in being noticed, right? Depending on each culture of the organization that you work with, management. Everyone has politics. The larger the organization, the more management. There's far more politics, right? And as you start your career journey, you'll understand how to maneuver yourself in politics. But my experience, I would say, is work hard. That's the best way in I guess being noticed, and your star qualities will come out. Be able to collaborate, communicate, and naturally shine, rather than again trying to maneuver yourself strategically. I would say.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. I think we are already at 13:45. So I would also like to request the other students who have questions. We are receiving a lot of the questions in the chat box as well. We will try to get back to you with the questions in a written document form after this webinar in the coming next week. So Kalyani, you can project your screen and maybe we can just move ahead with the upcoming events of the BRiK Academy. It was also wonderful to see students' such enthusiasm for learning about the internships. I'm confident that many students and newcomers at the start of their careers will find their own experiences reflected in the questions that we have discussed today. Yeah, before we conclude the webinar, I would also like to give you a preview of our upcoming BRiK Academy sessions and the inaugural CI competitive intelligence course that we would be launching in early 2025. So our next webinar will be focused on GCCs in pharma. In the session, we will have leaders from the global capability centers like Novartis, GSK, Pfizer, and so on. We're still finalizing on the speakers list. Do not miss out this opportunity and gain valuable insights. Next slide, please. So this in particular is I think would be a lot of interest for all of you students. We are introducing our new competitive intelligence course. So BRiK Academy would be planning this course tailored for students entering the industry and who want to seek a career into the consulting field, insights and analytics field. The course will offer the flexibility with the option to choose between the entire program, or if you want to go ahead with some individual modules. So along with the in-depth CI training, we would also be engaging you with some BRiK Academy dummy projects to apply your skills in real-world scenarios. If you're someone who is aspiring to have a career in the consulting world, then do not miss out on this course. We would also be sharing some more details around this course on our Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, BRiK Academy handles. So please stay tuned to the updates. So in closing, I would say a big thank you to all the expert panelists and the participants for your active engagement. Your insights and students, your questions have truly enriched this webinar. I hope now the students have a clear understanding of how to secure an internship and how to make a successful transition into the industry. Next slide, please. I know everyone is eagerly waiting for the information on the internship criteria. One lucky person from the students who are attending the event will walk away with a 2-month internship program at Adametnext. To be considered, you will need to submit a PowerPoint presentation summarizing today's discussion in a creative manner. Try to have more visually appealing slides. Please send your presentations to info@BRiK Academy, and your presentations will be evaluated, and we will also shortlist the winner. You will also be receiving a certification of participation soon after the webinar, and also a feedback form, a short 3-minute feedback form. Please take time out and fill this form. It helps us improve. Thank you so much for joining us, and all the details around the internship criteria at Adametnext after this webinar will also be shared with you individually on the emails. Thank you so much.